Today we're plogging Spices Gap at Governor's Chair Lookout. Let's see whether this is an oasis. We're going to head up to the cliff first.
Hi, I'm Trinity, the producer and narrator of Plog Vlog. I'll take over from here. Today's location is the Governor's Chair section of Spices Gap. And I want to share more than just the view. So while David does his thing, you know, climbing, sweating, and picking up other people's rubbish, I'll be walking you through the story of this place. And keep watching, because later on, I'll be telling you a bit more about myself.
Handy dandy cleanup bag. I had to take the handy dandy cleanup bucket on the motorbike.
Spices Gap lies on the western edge of Queensland's Scenic Rim. It used to be one of the main routes between the coast and the inland Darling Downs during the 1800s. Before modern roads and highways, this rugged, steep and often muddy path was one of the only ways people could get wagons and supplies over the Great Dividing Range.
That's going to be a challenge.
Convicts built the road. Or rather, they carved it into the landscape by hand, stone by stone, under brutal conditions. You can still see some of their original work today. Some of the drainage channels they dug are still functioning, which says a lot about their engineering skills, and maybe their resilience too. The area is named after Peter Beauclerk Spicer. He was the superintendent of convicts in the early colonial period and helped scout the route across the range in the 1840s.
Any rubbish around here? This could be impressive. Oh, very, very, very disappointing. There's no sign anymore, Trinity.
But don't go thinking he was some great humanitarian. He was very much a man of his time. Think chains, floggings, and not much in the way of workers' rights. One of the best known spots here is Governor's Chair Lookout.
Okay, enough time stuffing around. Let's be plogging. Can you see any rubbish, Trinity?
Legend has it that several colonial governors rested here on their way through the range. Whether they actually sat on the rock or just had their names slapped onto it afterwards is a little fuzzy, but it's a good excuse for a name. Standing there, looking out over the valleys and peaks, it's not hard to see why it's still a favourite viewpoint today.
I found a towel. I think this might be rubbish. Forgive Trinity over here. She films me picking up rubbish and then I put it on YouTube and encourage others to do it.
Some say you can feel the ghosts of old travellers up there. And honestly, with that wind howling through the trees, I wouldn't blame you if your imagination ran wild.
Leave the place cleaner than I found it. What's your YouTube? Plog Vlog.
It hasn't all been history and hiking though. There have been tragedies here too. The narrow, winding road and unpredictable weather have led to accidents over the years, some fatal. Parts of the old road have been closed to vehicles now, partly to protect the environment and partly because modern cars don't really cope well with washed-out 19th century convict tracks. These days, Spices Gap is part of Main Range National Park. Hikers, cyclists, birdwatchers, history buffs, and apparently ploggers come here to enjoy the quiet and the views. It's also a favourite place for dual sport motorcycle riders to test their dirt riding skills. One of the reasons why David came up here today. You'll see more of that on the ride down later. The lookout remains one of the best spots to take in the vast, almost ancient feel of the place.
I really doubt we're going to see any rubbish down that way. So I'll head back to the car park.
And speaking of ancient, This landscape is part of a long dormant volcanic caldera. The whole Scenic Rim region formed from a massive eruption about 23 million years ago. So, not quite as dramatic as Taupo in New Zealand. You can check out that video on the channel. But still impressive in a slow geological kind of way. The Great Dividing Range, especially here in southern Queensland, is shaped by ancient volcanic activity, though not all at once. Unlike dramatic single eruptions, this range formed through a series of volcanic events over millions of years. Basaltic lava flows once blanketed the landscape, building up the highlands we see today. Over time, erosion carved out valleys and left behind the rugged escarpments and peaks that now attract hikers, artists, and ploggers alike. Long before convict roads or scenic lookouts, Indigenous Australians used Spicer's Gap as a natural pathway across the Great Dividing Range. For thousands of years, it connected inland and coastal communities, serving as a travel route, a trade corridor, and a cultural link. There's something grounding about plogging in places like this. The stories, the history, the weight of time, and then there's David in the background, picking up a plastic wrapper in the car park. Stick around a little, and I'll tell you why I'm the one narrating these videos now, and why you'll be hearing a lot more from me in the future.
Heritage Trail, 3.2 kilometres. We won't do that today.
Just up from the car park, there's this heritage trail that gives a glimpse into the history of this pass. It also shows how Spicer's Gap was once a vital transport route. That sign talks about the road's construction, the bullock teams that used it, and the convicts who carved it out.
Making tracks, history of road building.
Convict road building in Queensland was as grim as it sounds. Crews of men, often chained, were sent out into dense bushland with picks, shovels and wheelbarrows to carve out roads by hand. There were no machines, just brute force and orders barked from horseback. These roads were essential for expanding the colony, but they came at a steep human cost. Some sections, like parts of Spicer's Gap Road, are still visible today. Stonework laid by people who had no choice in the matter, but who left behind something that endures, people like David's ancestors.
I'm pretty sure we're not going to find any rubbish up here. Almost certain. Go back to the car park again. What do we got? A towel and a bit of this stuff.
David's Irish ancestors came to Australia in the early 1800s with free ship tickets that they received as convicts. Most were caught stealing food or fabric, or just being poor in the wrong place at the wrong time. Some were hardened criminals. No matter the reasons, their punishment planted the roots of a new life in a new world. We're just about done plogging. Just the usual 10 minutes or so. It's nothing epic, just a way of leaving somewhere better than we found it. One final check of this side of the car park, and then we'll decide whether this place is an oasis. A place that can be kept untrashified, at least for now.
I'm calling this an oasis. How you doing?
Good, mate.
As I mentioned before, I'm Trinity, and I now produce and narrate these Plog vlog videos. I'm going to tell you a bit more about me as David rides down the mountain, while you all wait with bated breath to see if he falls off. I started living with David and his wife after we were all locked down together a few years ago. I was going through a rough time and they gave me a bed for the night, which ended up turning into a fortnight and then, well, ever since. It was never supposed to be permanent. I didn't even bring a toothbrush. I thought I'd stay one night and then figure something out. But I was 17 and the world was kind of falling apart. David's an orphan and spent years of his youth alone, so he understood my situation. He couldn't stand the idea of me experiencing that. That's how I ended up in their spare room, awkwardly hovering between guest and ghost. At some point, they stopped treating me like a guest, and I stopped trying to vanish. He started taking me on these plogging trips. At first, I thought he was kidding. Who chooses to spend their weekends picking up rubbish? I didn't even like the bush, and especially not running in the bush. I still don't like it most of the time. There are bugs and hills and no decent Wi-Fi. But I went, mostly because I felt like I owed him. Still do, if I'm honest. He didn't make me go. He just said, "I'd like your help." And that was enough to guilt me into it. And then he gave me a camera. At first, I thought I was just holding it. But slowly, I realized he was letting me decide where to point it. Then, he started asking what I thought about the footage. Then, I was cutting clips, adding subtitles, picking the music, editing, narrating. And here we are. I can't be on camera or social media. Don't ask why. It's complicated. Trinity Anderson isn't my real name, and there are reasons I keep my real one tucked away. The name? I chose it while watching Netflix with David's wife. I'd never seen The Matrix before. Also, my voice isn't even my real voice. It's been altered slightly. I'm just being careful. I thought this ride down the mountain was a good chance to introduce myself properly. I liked the footage. It gave me a sense of what it's like to be on the bike without having to actually be on a bike. Besides, I figured this was a good time to flesh out the shift that's been happening behind the scenes. David's been getting a bit disenchanted lately, frustrated, disillusioned. He doesn't always realize how much of it is bleeding into the videos. I get it. Litter is everywhere. He's been trying to stay hopeful, but you can see it eating at him. The world is becoming a rubbish dump, and he's running out of optimism. He calls it toxic trashification. So we had a talk, a proper one, and we agreed I'd take over the production side of things. He still goes out and plogs, still does the work, but I get to decide how the story gets told. He says that he only ever wanted to be an interesting side character in these stories, so I'm going to edit things to help make that happen. I don't think he realizes how much these videos matter, not just to the people who watch them, but to me. Editing these stories, seeing the places, cutting through the noise, it helps me make sense of things. It gives me something solid to hold on to when everything else feels a bit loose. My generation definitely needs solid things to hold on to. There's power in shaping the story, even if I'm never in the frame. We argue sometimes. He wants to show every bit of rubbish, every ugly truth. I'm more about balance, hope, subtlety. I don't think waving garbage in people's faces makes them care more. It just makes them look away. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we both are. Or maybe we're just playing different parts in the same story. The stories of the places we plog also deserve to be told. We've gone to places that, a few years ago, were pretty much fairy tale lands to me. They hold amazing stories that can be told as they are cleaned up. David can't be bothered learning his lines properly, so I'm left to narrate the stories. Anyway, back to this road. Spicer's Gap is gorgeous, and yeah, bumpy as hell. I was holding my breath half the time while editing this. One wrong move, and David becomes a very dusty bag of old bones rolling along the road. Fortunately, he's got decent balance and has been watching YouTube videos about off-road riding. The University of YouTube. This road used to be a vital link between Queensland's inland and the coast. Convict built, if I remember correctly. Now it's mostly a playground for hikers, four-wheel drivers, and apparently amateur filmmakers on yellow motorcycles, with something to say about litter. Sometimes I think about what I'd do if I wasn't doing this. I'm studying teaching now, working as a teacher aide while I finish my degree. That's why I can travel during school holidays and film most of David's trips. But part of me wonders if this storytelling, videography, environmental stuff, maybe it's more than just a side thing. Maybe it's becoming my thing. I don't know how long I'll keep doing this. Maybe one day I'll find someone to replace David on camera and he'll finally get to plog in peace without a lens following him around. Maybe I'll feel safe enough one day to step out of the shadows a little more. Maybe I won't. But for now, I'll keep editing, keep narrating, keep making meaning out of plastic and dirt and discarded Doritos packets. Anyway, we're nearly at the bottom now. Thanks for sticking around. You made it through volcanic gravel and as much of my story as I'm prepared to tell at the moment. Let's call that a soft launch. Trinity out.